What's up, everybody? Thralls Metal here once again. I'm the Croc-Neck, and I am back with some more underrated albums. And this time, we're gonna get stoned. We're gonna go over some more stoner metal. Actually, going through all the underrated albums I've done. It had been a while since I've gone over stoner metal. Actually, that was way back when I really didn't know how to make a thumbnail or make a goofy face and pose or anything like that. Yeah, definitely gotten better, worse. I don't know, depending on if you like your thumbnails or not. But I wanted to go back to this one, and again, this is one that crosses a lot of different genre boundaries. You have stoner metal, stoner doom, there's just flat out stoner rock. Hell, there's even stoner thrash in this pile. So I pretty much just went with anything that had a different approach to stoner metal. Now, I left stoner doom in this one, even though eventually I'm gonna go back and do a doom metal one, because, I don't know, stoner doom, I just feel belongs closer to the stoner metal genre just because of, you know, lyrical themes and just the overall vibe of it. But who knows, there might even be some carryover into the doom one from stoner doom. I don't know, I kind of just picked ones that I thought were really interesting, underrated, a little bit different from one another. And yeah, we're gonna get into this. So pack a fucking fresh one and let's go over some of these fucking fat nugs of stoner metal. Asbestosdeath, Dejection / Unclean. Now this is the compilation version of these two EPs, came out on 2007 on Southern Lord Records. This is essentially the very beginning of Sleep, granted with a much different name and kind of a different sound. Now both of these EPs came out in the 90s, I believe. One was 90, one was 92. I might be off on that, I forgot to write it down. But this features all the OG members of Sleep: Matt Pike, Al Cicernos, and Chris Hakius, or Hakius, I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your last name, as well as fellow guitarist Tom Choi, who was actually a member of Noothrush at one point. Now, this is kind of interesting in the sense that I think this is one of the few projects that I have that involves Matt Pike where he is not the sole guitarist. And he doesn't do vocals on this. This is actually, I believe, mostly Al and Tom Choi doing vocals on here. And this is definitely different than Sleep. This is way more just dark and foreboding. Like, it's definitely more of the stoner doom sound, but it kind of carries a bit of that doom sound a little bit more than, say, Sleep does. And honestly, all the vocals being harsh on here kind of gives it like a Neurosis stoner doom sort of feel. The guitar tone in here is way more sludgy, kind of less warm, like there's a big sort of chunky sound to it. And song-wise, I think these guys are still quite a bit heavier than Sleep was. The song The Suffering alone is just absolutely bone-crunching heavy. Like, again, not that warm, trippy feel you kind of get from Sleep. This is more just being pummeled by the weight of depression, anguish, hatred of things. I don't know, with a band name like Asbestosdeath, you're pretty much guaranteed a lot of dark shit on here. Now, these songs are a lot shorter than Sleep songs. Like, I mean, they're still relatively long. There's 4 tracks. There were 2 on each of the EPs, but this is definitely not Dope Smoker. Otherwise, I'd probably still be listening to it, you know, probably pause halfway just to shave because I would have grown an entire fucking beard in the time it takes for Dope Smoker to fucking play through. But this is kind of interesting to hear the early works of what would be Sleep, because this could not be any more different just in the overall atmosphere and vibe of it. Solid stuff. I thought about doing a retro review for this, and who knows, maybe years down the line we might, but I wanted to cover it here because I always thought this was a really interesting project, and it was interesting to see how it sort of molded into Sleep. Tom Choi actually left, and then the rest of the band continued on, and then Tom Choi did Noothrush, and I believe a whole bunch of other projects. But I think that was probably the thing that was keeping them a little bit darker and heavier before they just went full bore, just stoned the fuck out, and became Sleep. So yeah, if you have never checked this out, it is a really interesting listen. Again, not quite like Sleep, but kind of like Sleep. Either way, solid fucking jam. Check it out. Sons of Otis, Seismic. This is the 6th album from this Toronto-based stoner doom band. It came out in 2012 on Small Stone Records, which there's definitely a fair amount of Small Stone stuff on here. And this is some flat-out stoner doom. This is very much in the vein of bands like, I would say, Orange Goblin, High on Fire, especially the vocals. They're very gravelly. They're very, well, Orange Goblin / High on Fire. But riff-wise, this is all about the fucking drone. The guitar and bass tone in here just create this wall of drone that just hits you like a fucking slow motion tsunami. These guys love to create a lot of cool spacey atmosphere in here too. The song Lessons, I think in particular, is a good example because they have all these weird like bass effects in the beginning of the song and then just kind of gets all cosmic before just hitting you over the head with giant fucking droning riffs. And believe me, that is the theme on here. The fucking riffs are just massive. This is built on just giant riffs, but again, weird atmosphere. The song Guilt, I swear it has the flying saucer noises from War of the Worlds in there, and I absolutely fucking loved it. But my favorite stuff on this album came near the end as the song PK, which is a 9.5-minute instrumental that is pretty much the musical equivalent of the longest bong rip ever. I would say it's about 6 minutes of inhaling and 3.5 minutes of exhaling. It is slow, plodding, riffy as hell. I absolutely love the whole vibe. But then they shift gears on the song Cosmic Jam, which is definitely accurate. That one gets full on like psychedelic, whereas PK is a giant bong rip. This is like a 10 strip of fucking blotter right in the fucking tongue. You just kind of get lost in the spaciness, but it's still riffy and heavy. I really love this album. It had been a while since I had jammed this, and I like the fact that this is a little bit on the heavier side. Again, the vocals aren't very clean. It's not just, you know, sort of Sabbath worship. This is just heavy. Otis raised some good fucking kids, I can tell you that much. I still need to get more of their stuff. Again, I didn't even realize this was their 6th album. I thought this was a relatively new band, but apparently there are 5 other albums before this, and I think some after it, so I'm gonna have to get some more because this is an absolute banger, and if you love just droning stoner doom, check this out. Hermano Dare I Say. This is the 2nd album from this desert rock band, came out in 2005 on Meteor City Records, and this is yet another desert rock, desert metal, stoner metal act fronted by none other than John Garcia from Caius, Slow Burn, Vistacino, tons of other projects. The dude's an awesome vocalist, and I have picked up almost every band that he's been in. Hell, I even had that album by the Crystal Method where I actually supplied vocals. I think it was Legion of Boom. Pretty solid album. But yeah, I think this one's probably a little bit more well-known, but I think all of John Garcia's projects seem to fly under the radar, and if you're talking about stoner metal, it seems that all paths will eventually intersect around Caius or Caius-related projects, and I think this is one of his strongest. I think this pretty much came together after Slow Burn's EP, which, again, short-lived, awesome EP, but I think this is what it morphed into. And I think that first album by Hermano was definitely more along the lines of Slow Burn and Caius, like it was a little bit more chill, laid back, getting kind of that desert rock mood. But this album's a little bit more all over the place. The song Cowboys Suck, the opener, is a kind of high energy, sort of punky ripper and absolutely catchy as hell. He's barking about fucking flying down the motorways and, you know, 4 on the floor, something like that. I don't know, it's a good driving fast song with a really cool catchy chorus that is kind of Queens of the Stone Age-esque. And that is kind of a part of this, though I think it's heavier and maybe a little bit more, I don't know, loaded with attitude. The song Quite Fucked is just pretty much another punky jam that is absolutely loaded with fucking F-bombs. In very different ways. There's fucker, fuck, motherfucker. I might not have hit my quote on the F-bombs there, so I'm gonna leave it at that. But yeah, just a nasty fucking banger of a track. God damn it, I fucking swear it again. Shit. Ah, fuck, I suck at this. Anyway, songs like Brother Bjork is quite a bit more of like the sleazy sort of just flat out rock and roll energy in this. And the production isn't necessarily like the biggest, fuzziest sounding thing. It's more of kind of a rock production, but the guitars definitely still have that desert rock bite to them. But you get some stuff that is a little bit different. Murder One is kind of like cowboy saloon rock, sitting on the porch with the acoustic guitar, banjos, and tambourine. I don't know, like it just kind of has that sort of Western vibe to it. And the way this is paced, the songs are broken up really well in here. You get a lot of just very different stuff in here. Really enjoyed this album. It's been a while since I'd listened to this one too. I actually listened to the first one a little bit more just because that one sounds like flat out just stoner metal. This one still sounds like it, but it's a little bit more adventurous and I think a little bit more fun. So if you've never checked out Hermano, this is not a bad place to start. I recommend all 3 of their albums, but yeah, this one, kick-ass shit, and you should check it out. The Fucking Wrath, Season of Evil. Man, this is making me swear a lot. Anyway, this is their debut album, came out in 2007. This band is from Ventura, California, and this is stoner thrash. That is a thing. So versus a lot of stoner metal where you get the long drawn-out songs, these are short, sweet, and to the punch. This is pretty much like, you know, rocking a one-hitter versus doing bong rips. But I love this mix of two very different worlds here. The opening track, Ride the Lighter, which is an instrumental and a hilarious title, that is probably one of the slower things you'll hear on here because a lot of this is D-beat fury and just fast as hell. There are pockets where there are like big stoner metal grooves, but most of the time this album is flying. And again, these songs are maybe 3 minutes, 2 minutes. There's a couple of like 1 minute tracks. They're fast, they're aggressive, but it's still unmistakably like stoner metal riffs, stoner metal production, but it's just aggressive stoner metal, which seems kind of weird because, you know, I think most stoners are kind of just chilled out, and no, these guys are fucking angry and stoned. I got this when this came out in 2007 on Goodfellow Records, and I knew I was gonna love it right from the end of that instrumental because it quoted Ghostbusters 2. It actually has Vigo the Carpathian's speech about a season of evil. What a great fucking tie-in and an awesome movie. But I didn't know this was gonna be so different because when the next track comes on, To the Eels, it's a fucking D-beat ripper, and I was like, wait, holy shit, I thought I got stoner metal, and I did, but very different. I wasn't looking for like punk energy or anything like that. I was looking for kind of chill music, and this album is like, fuck that, let's fucking party. And this album is just pure fun to listen to because it's sort of a like cinder block on the gas pedal of the fucking spray painted, you know, Econoline stoner van. Like, it's just flying at all times. And the way it ends, it kind of lures you into a false sense of security that you're going to get like a nice slow stoner jam to sort of bookend the opening instrumental with Old Man in the Sea. Pretty much halfway through that, it's like, nope, fuck that, hit the gas, we're back to the fast shit. And while it is maybe a little bit one note, this album is a lot of fun. Now, this band has been on hold for a long time. I believe their last album came out in 2010. And they have not put out anything since. So hopefully they get off of the whole hiatus thing, because I liked the last album, even though it was a little bit different. They kind of stripped back a lot of the fuzz on the guitars. But I would like to hear more, especially stuff in this vein. If you like thrash metal and stoner metal and kind of wondered what they sounded like combined when it wasn't High on Fire's faster material, definitely check this out. This is just a gnarly, fast listen, and it's fucking fun as hell. Roadsaw. Self-titled. This is this band's 5th album. They were from Boston. It came out in 2011 on Small Stone Records, like, again, a lot of this stuff. And this is more along the lines of stoner rock versus stoner metal. The riffs are still really heavy, but they have more of a classic rock feel, and they really lean heavily on like more of a classic rock vocal approach too. Like, he's got a good gritty singing voice, but he's very tuneful. Kind of similar to like Caius with a little bit more compression, or like The Sword, but kind of like the later Sword, but with beefier guitars, because I really like the guitar tone in here. It's a nice heavy sound, and overall the production sounds great. Now, a lot of this are more like riff-driven rockers, like big hooky choruses. They kind of keep the song times a little bit tighter around like that 3-minute, 4-minute range, but the song Electric Heaven, they kind of just lay it all out and go with a complete cool, like, dreary stoner jam. It gets more spacey, a little bit more cosmic, and they do speed it up a little bit with like D-beat stompers like Weight and Gold and Too Much Is Not Enough. This is just a solid rocker of an album, and again, I just picked this one up on a whim, probably just due to the kind of goofy album cover. I don't know, I like it in its weirdness, but art-wise, I don't know, like, it definitely captures the stoner metal vibe. Like, you look at an album cover like this, and you could pretty much guess they're stoner metal, and then, you know, you look at the band picture, and like, oh yeah, no, they're stoner metal. But yeah, it's a solid listen. This is the only album I have jammed by this band, but I do like it, and I would like to actually find more of their stuff eventually. I just really haven't been looking because there's so much other stuff that I'm buying. But yeah, if you like your stoner metal a little bit closer to the stoner rock side, a little bit more accessible, hooky, kind of more of that classic rock vibe, like, you know, heavier Blue Oyster Cult, Black Sabbath, that sort of thing, definitely check this out. It's a solid album. Eternal Elysium, Cher. This is the 3rd album from this Japanese stoner doom psychedelic act. Came out in 2002 on Meteor City Records, and this is a fun, wild listen. And that's kind of the thing with Japanese metal anyway. I love Japan for its weirdness and just being over the top in some of the coolest fucking ways. And it's pretty much captured here in stoner doom form. This is kind of a wild, all over the place listen, and I really dig how just strange it is sometimes. The production is really interesting because, God, the guitars are so damn loud. They're squawking and squealing, but when they get down to like the big stoner doom breakdowns, it is like mono lord heavy. There's a lot of cool elements at play too in here. You get very bluesy vocals, but you have, again, big doom riffs, but sort of a stoner metal sort of like playfulness to it. And the songwriting styles are all over the place. Waiting for the Sun is about as Sabbathy as you can get, except with maybe like Cathedral's guitar tone. But then you have this bouncy, poppy, hooky, kind of heavy metalish song called Movements and Vibes, and I absolutely love it. It has a killer repeated vocal hook on there that really just kind of drives the song. It's just a very catchy song, but in kind of a weird way. And I love all the weird chants and atmosphere that is on the song Dogma, which is another long track, almost 8 minutes long. These guys like to kind of just take songs for a walk. Like, they just kind of rock a bridge forever and just kind of noodle about, but it's in a really fun way. And most of this album, I think, is absolutely killer up until you get to the last track, which is just fucking weird. Fairies Never Sleep. It's not really a song. It is essentially looped chants, groans, wails. There's like the Grudge Chick's death rattle sort of thing in there too. I think people are blowing raspberries on there. But of course the reverb is just fucking cranked on this, and it sounds echoey and ridiculous. But outside of that track, the last track, which, you know, it's like 4 minutes and you can kind of skip it. It's kind of like Lick Do on fucking Welcome to Sky Valley. Like, you can just kind of skip that one. It's just goofy and weird. This is longer though. But yeah, just skip it. The rest of the album, I think, is absolutely awesome. It's very adventurous. It's playful, fun. It's a weird trip through some desert. I don't know if Japan has deserts, but I'm pretty sure there's like sprawling open country where this would be a good night drive, I guess. It's strange. It's Japanese. I absolutely love it. I need to get more of their stuff. This is the only album by them I own, and I picked it up fucking forever ago. And again, this is another one that I got a chance to revisit and absolutely love it. So yeah, if you like your stoner doom weird, I strongly recommend this one. Definitely check it out. All right, we have a split here. This is between Spiritu and Village of Dead Roads. This is their Human Failures split. Came out in 2006 on Meteor City Records. Another one that, you know, I apparently just latched onto for this one. And Spiritu is actually one I covered in an earlier stoner metal one, because Spiritu, their debut album, had a pretty profound effect on me. And I figured, why not bring them up again, because this is their only other like CD release, really. So Spiritu from New Mexico. I believe the frontman of this band is actually the guy that was in charge of Meteor City when it was still around. I think that label is defunct now. Really solid stuff. Straight up stoner metal, kind of the desert rock vibe, very cool bluesy vocals. Very comparable to Caius, especially the song Throwback. I think that is a particularly catchy song, and it kind of has that desert rock, almost kind of desert punk kind of buried in there. And Latitude is a giant doomy bastard of a song, though I think the end of it is maybe a little drawn out. But overall, I mean, I already love that band, and I did cover them before. They're awesome. Definitely recommend checking them out. And then Village of Dead Roads is a sludge / doom band from Erie, Pennsylvania, and I'm not entirely sure if they're around anymore either. But yeah, not stoner metal, but it kind of has that same vibe to some of the songs, though much heavier. Like the guitar tone, way more thick, way more chunky, way more akin to sludge metal. There's just enough warmth on it. It kind of reminds me of like a stoner doom sort of crowbar-ish sort of feel. Vocally, it's really interesting because there are harsh and clean vocals on it. And there's even a little bit of like post-metal atmosphere on the beginning of Woman of Ill Repute. The whole beginning of that, very neurosis-y and Jesus, that song gets flat out heavier than hell. Really enjoyed this split. It was really cool to return to this one too, much like it was really cool to return to all of these. That's, again, kind of the fun of doing the underrated stuff. I get to listen to stuff I haven't listened to in a long time. Village of Dead Roads might not actually fit on this one, but Spiritu definitely does. And even Village of Dead Roads, there's enough of that stoner metal sort of vibe to them that, yeah, it fits enough. I strongly recommend checking out both bands. I don't own any other stuff by Village of Dead Roads, but I know Spiritu's debut album is absolutely killer, and if you haven't listened to that, I recommend that as well. But yeah, check this one out. Witchrider, Unmountable Stairs. This is the debut album from this Austrian stoner metal, stoner rock band. Came out in 2014 on Fuzzorama Records, and I'm already gonna have to make fun of the album art just a bit because, I don't know, Unmountable Stairs looks like the hipster werewolf that is on the cover of this is having no problem with it. Also, why the fuck is there a hipster werewolf on the fucking stairs? What the hell is going on in here? Anyway, I'm still asking questions about this album cover, and I bought this shit when it came out. Now, a fun fact about this band is they're actually from the same town that Arnold Schwarzenegger was born in, so that's already pretty fucking cool. But this is very much in the realm of like more of a Queens of the Stone Age style stoner metal / stoner rock. It definitely has a lot of stuff that reminds me of at least the first two Queens of the Stone Age albums. It's a little bit more rough, but kind of straightforward, rocky, especially in the riffs. The riffs don't just like ape Black Sabbath. That is kind of a thing that stoner metal is guilty of, but I still love it because Black Sabbath fucking rules. This actually kind of takes cues from, you know, Black Sabbath, of course, but also stuff that is a little bit more along the lines of like alternative rock or even bands like Quicksand and Helmet occasionally. But Queens of the Stone Age is definitely a big part of this. The opening track, OCD, reminds me a lot of the song Regular People, which I believe that's the opener for their first album. I might be wrong there. But the riff is very similar, though the guitars are quite a bit chunkier. They're quite a bit heavier. So this, again, with that extra tone, kind of maybe leans a little bit more towards the metal side. I love the big flat out rock hooks on the song Black. And the production here is decidedly more modern, like it's definitely more fine-tuned, but I kind of like it because it's kind of different, again, from a lot of stoner metal I listen to. There's also a really interesting sort of like melancholy vibe about this, instead of like that chill, sort of trippy, going through the desert sort of thing about stoner metal. You feel like this is a little bit more introspective and just kind of talking about like, you know, more personal stuff, more sad, dark stuff, but not necessarily like doom metal stuff. It's hard to describe, especially when you have songs that are decidedly a little bit more poppy, like stoner power pop, like, you know, what if the Foo Fighters were a stoner metal band? And then to make it even more strange, the song The Fog on here is like this weird, trippy, stoner, bluesy jam. I really like the songwriting on here. Like, this is paced really well. The songs are very different from one another. There's a lot of interesting vocal hooks on here. There's a shitload of ridiculous laughter on the song 1 for 5, which the bonus track on here is like, I guess, all the laughter they use, and it's like terrible forced laughter. Like, they're laughing at nothing and just trying to sound like they're laughing at something, and it just, I don't know. It sounds goofy, but I don't know, I guess it kind of works as a weird little extra track. But yeah, this was a fun listen. Again, one I hadn't returned to in a while, but when I was going through all the different stoner metal, I remembered this one, and I wanted something that kind of had like more of that Queens of the Stone Age vibe, because I'm a giant Queens of the Stone Age fan, and this is pretty much like heavier Queens of the Stone Age. Now, I believe they have one other album. It came out in 2020. I have not listened to that one, so I don't know what that one sounds like, but I know this one's really damn good. And again, if you like Queens of the Stone Age and stoner metal mixed with like bands like Quicksand, and I guess also if you have a thing for hipster werewolves, check this out too. I'm not here to judge, I'm just here to tell you about it. Check it out. Across Tundras, Seige. This is the 7th album from this then Denver and I believe currently Nashville-based progressive stoner doom / atmospheric / blues rock. I don't know. This is probably the strangest release that is in this entire stack. These guys have quite possibly one of the most unique approaches to anything I have in this stack. This is, again, very atmospheric. It brings in a lot of elements. Like, there are tons of riffs on here that would, you know, of course fit right in with most stoner metal, but there's a lot of interesting sort of ambient soundscapes. There's lush sort of proggy sections. There's even country-esque material. The song Buried Arrows is essentially like a, I don't know, like sort of Appalachian, sort of like country, folky sort of feel to it. The vocals kind of have like a folky cadence to it. That one even has a female vocalist on there to pair up, and it's really good. It's really interesting. You have slide guitars on here, lots of acoustic passages. It's a very interesting listen. It still has that sort of desert vibe, except you're on horseback. You're not in the fucking beat up convertible just driving through the desert. You are actually riding on a horse through the desert. The heavier tracks like Tshulu Junction kind of pack all the doom riffs almost into one song until you get to Mean Season Moving On, which is the longest song. It's about 13 minutes and it's fucking awesome. It is packed with so many cool songwriting dynamics. It's just moving on to the next big hook, but it still repeats a lot of cool melodies on here. I really enjoyed this one. Again, it's kind of all over the place. There are some sections that are sort of absent of anything stoner metal, or hell, even absent of anything doom metal, but overall this album has like kind of a cohesive vibe of just, I don't know, strangeness. I really dig this one. Now, an interesting thing about this band is these guys got busy really fucking early on. Now, I believe this band formed in 2005 or 2006, but counting this one in between the time they formed and 2011, they wrote 7 full lengths in 5 years. So that is an impressive body of work. Now, they slowed down the output after a while, and I believe they are currently on hiatus, though I think the last album came out maybe in 2020 or 2019 or 2018. I would love to hear more from them. I apparently need to get more of their stuff because this is the only one I own by them. But yeah, this is, again, still stoner metal. It's just very different. I recommend listening to it. I mean, if you're more of a fan of like Baroness and stuff like that, but also like Panopticon, but also like The Sword, it's kind of all those things wrapped up. I just recommend jamming it, and it should take you on an interesting journey on horseback through the desert, or maybe the mountains. I don't know. It's a wild listen. Check it out. And finally, we have Red Giant, Dysfunctional Majesty. This is their 4th album, and most recent came out in 2010. Again, this is another one that came out on Small Stone. A lot of stuff on that label. This is a Cleveland-based act, too, so it was kind of cool. I wanted to cap this off with an Ohio band. And right away, of course, I love the album cover. It is a brilliant homage to Love Gun, which I'm not the biggest Kiss fan, but holy shit, that album cover is pretty fucking sweet. But what we have here is, at least according to archives, it's stoner doom, but I hear more stoner metal, stoner rock with kind of just a big sleazy rock and roll vibe. Again, this one is kind of more along the lines of stoner rock, with the vocals being kind of more of that gritty rock delivery, and it's very upbeat. Like, there's a lot of like faster, just more up-tempo songs, but of course you have these big stoner riffs behind them, which the fucking guitar tone sounds great. I'd say this is very comparable to bands like Lopan or, again, Spiritu, which I've brought up before, especially with songs like Herds of Something Else and the instrumental Weird Problems, which is a fucking awesome instrumental. It's just a flat-out rocker. This one isn't like trying to get as spacey and weird, though they do get a little strange on here. The song Silver Shirley, while it is maybe a little bit more doomy than most of the stuff in here for the most part, it takes an odd turn towards the end. There is a kind of weird bridge, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you get like an acid jazz saxophone solo. Like, it's just going fucking absolutely nuts, just running through all sorts of scales. But it's kind of cool how it transitions into a guitar solo right after that. There's a lot of this on here that kind of hangs on to that sort of like heavy blues rock feel, kind of like Clutch, though I would say a bit heavier. The song These Satisfactions Are Permanent is sort of a weird little bluesy jam. I kind of like the weird little breakdown to it. It's kind of got a cool groove to it. A lot of this is just sort of high energy fun, and when they said it was stoner doom, I just listened to this and was like, man, this is maybe too happy to be doomy. Like, these guys sound like they're generally having fun, and I can just see them smiling on stage throughout the entire thing. That's not necessarily doom. Like, maybe in between songs you can smile at the audience, but when you're dooming, you stay sullen. I don't think that's an actual rule, but I mean, it just seems kind of appropriate. Like, if you see a doom band that's all smiles, I don't know, just won't feel right. But yeah, this is a really fun stoner metal, stoner doom, stoner rock, whatever you want to call it. It's heavy, it's fun, it's riffy, and I enjoy the hell of it. I want to check out more of their stuff, and hopefully these guys get off what I would assume is a hiatus, because 12 years without an album, kind of a long period. But yeah, definitely check this one out. Fun listen. All right, that knocks out another underrated albums. I am probably going to do a Doom one after this one. I've been looking at that list and actually adding stuff to it, and I believe somebody actually requested going back and doing some Doom, so fuck yeah, let's do some Doom. Outside of that, we are working on a bunch of other stuff. Already starting to listen to a shit ton of Exodus, because that is up next as far as our rankings. And of course we have some other stuff planned, plenty of reviews coming. I mean, April looks like it's pretty well loaded, but also in April I'm going to be going on vacation from the 14th to the 24th, and during that time, well, the other guys will be in charge of putting out some stuff if they choose to. I'm pretty much going to relax because I've been doing this kind of nonstop for a while. But I'll probably do a live stream or something like that with the guys, or over on, Metal Madness's channel or Dreadful Minutes, because I can do that from a hotel room while getting drunk on rum runners, and that sounds like a good fucking time. But yeah, if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, and if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We are also on Patreon. If you'd like to help us out there, there'll be a link down below, and there will also be a link down below to thrallsmetal.com, where if you would like, you can get one of our cool t-shirts. So once again, thank you all very much for watching, subscribing, following us. It means the world to us. We love seeing this grow. We love seeing this whole community grow. Been an awesome ride. Thank you for being a part of it, and with that, we will catch you later.